When bad weather hits, it's do or die.
I don't know how this guy ever boarded out of this.
Daredevils brave waves.
It felt like it was going to rip my head off.
Wind.
I've never ever seen a waterspout that huge.
And snow. Not to mention,
hey, look at this!
A volcano.
That was definitely the most dangerous thing I ever did.
On this edition of Weather Caught on Camera.
Oh my gosh, the people have kind of panicked.
A surfer trapped under one of the biggest waves ever. His fate caught on camera.
I was just telling myself I didn't even care if I got in the tube or whatever. I just wanted to make it.
August 27th, 2011. Teahupo, Tahiti. A storm offshore means weather so bad and waves so huge, the Navy has issued a code red warning, shutting down the world-famous Billabong surfing competition.
The swell got so big that all the people in the contest, they didn't want to surf in those conditions.
But that doesn't faze daredevils like professional big wave surfer Nathan Fletcher, who flies in at the last minute for a renegade tow-in session.
It's such a big swell hitting such shallow reef that it makes the whole ocean break.
Teahupo's waves are called the world's heaviest because of the way its shallow coral reef triggers the wave's huge break.
This area is rated as having one of the 10 deadliest waves in the world. If that thing crashes on top of you, it's going to push you right down into the reef. And you're a goner. And people lose their lives that way.
Fletcher started chasing waves in California at the age of 6 and has never looked back.
It's something that clears your mind or cleanses your soul. It's like, you know, D, it's all of the above.
He got his big break at Teahupo in '99 and hasn't competed here since. But a weather forecast predicting giant swells finally lures him back to Tahiti. His tow-in partner takes him out into the killer waves.
The set was coming, and he asked me, you know, if I was ready, and I was all, yeah.
A camera captures Fletcher the minute he lets go of the tow rope.
It was like riding a big swell, an open ocean swell, and at the bottom, it was like there was a ditch.
This extremely rare and dangerous wave is over 30 feet.
Sounds like thunder. Sounds like if lightning struck like right next to you.
What's so awesome about these waves is they can go on forever, and you can ride them for a very long period of time, if you're good. If you're not, you're going to get crushed.
I felt like I was wrestling with my surfboard to stay in the wave and not get sucked up, but traverse across it. Right then, I realized that I wasn't making it. I'd pretty much started falling back. I just knew it was just going to be really bad and violent.
The wave swallows him in a burst of foam.
It's almost like a high that you're in search of, you know, but you know that it's death as well. To say that I was terrified was an understatement.
The violent undertow holds him down.
It felt like it was going to rip my head off.
And won't let go.
I was expecting to go down and hit the reef, but somehow it shot me up in all the turbulence. All of a sudden I was on the surface, and I couldn't believe it, you know.
Amazingly, Fletcher isn't injured, but the legendary wave that wins him Ride of the Year honors still doesn't seem real.
When I saw a photo the next day, I couldn't believe that that was me on the wave. They say it's the heaviest wave ever surfed in the history of the sport. It's right up there, you know, with any of them.
At another island in the South Pacific, a gigantic eruption from under the water shoots thousands of feet into the air as a small boat gets way too close.
Turn us around! Turn us around!
That was definitely the most dangerous thing I ever did.
Hey, look at this! Next one!
5 days after a 4.4 earthquake rattles an idyllic chain of islands just north of New Zealand, the weather is beautiful.
It's flat, calm, blue sky.
Lotta Slaben notices a bizarre vertical cloud rising on the horizon at one of his favorite fishing spots between the tiny islands of Hunga Tonga and Hunga Hapai.
That's exactly the spot where we caught fish, just 3 weeks before. If you like fishing, this is paradise, this is heaven.
Lotta usually takes 2 boats in case of an emergency. But today, he throws caution to the wind and heads out with 6 friends in a powerful speedboat.
We have to see that close up, what's going on there.
30 miles out, deep under the Pacific Ocean along the Ring of Fire, they get the surprise of their lives. A volcano coming to life.
It was just pure excitement, I think. Everybody wanted to be in front of the boat.
Lotta and his friends can't believe their eyes and their ears.
Absolutely no noise at any eruption. That was really amazing.
Man.
Oh, wow, look how big,
Hey, look at
big
this.
that is.
Next one.
It just explodes in front of you and the rocks start falling back down to the water. It's never more than 5 or 7 seconds going up probably 500, 600, 700 meters. Unbelievable.
I don't think I'd want to be in a boat that was within 100 yards of an erupting volcano. You never are sure whether there might not be another volcano that suddenly comes up right underneath you. Plus, you can have things falling out of the sky.
Frantic birds returning to nests on the tiny islands right next to the volcano are victims. One lonely bird is rescued.
We saw his claws, the legs, they were totally burned. And they got caught in that steam between these 2 volcanoes. That was horrifying. Plenty of dead fish too around the island, but just floating belly up.
Drawn in by curiosity and the wind, now they're way too close to a poisonous cloud of sulfur gas.
It will come very close, this smoke. So,
It is kind of very
better start it up.
Lotta yells to his friend to reverse the boat.
Turn us around already.
Those yellow gases could definitely be deadly. They contain sulfur, sulfur oxides, other sulfur compounds that could cause suffocation, could cause serious injuries to the inside of your body that could burn your lungs.
They escape just in time as another even greater explosion ignites. Two days later, Lotta tempts fate again and walks on a new island of pumice built up by volcanic eruptions right next to Hunga Hapai, the green palm-covered island, now singed black.
It could collapse any time, and if you are in the middle of that, you're just gone.
Weeks later, the new volcanic land starts to disappear.
We found out, and talking to some scientists, they said, look,
Turn us around already.
you're just lucky you're still here.
Hey, look at
big
this.
that is.
Next one.
Coming up, a duel against an avalanche.
It could kill someone when you least expect it.
And later, a cathedral where millions pray, hit by a quake. When weather caught on camera continues. High up in the Swiss Alps, a big mountain skier about to get slammed by an avalanche pulls one of the craziest moves you've ever seen.
The scary part with avalanches is that it could kill someone when you least expect it.
February 14th, 2013, Zermatt, Switzerland. A helicopter drops Sverre Liljeqvist and 15 of the world's best free skiers onto a tight landing zone at 10,000 feet.
Liljeqvist, 10 seconds.
He has a healthy respect for winter's fury and its dangers.
The weather plays a super big role in the whole scene. It's dangerous because an avalanche could happen anywhere.
Sverre makes his reputation outside the lines, not on groomed slopes, but on virgin snow.
Free means you can go everywhere on the mountain and just enjoy the ride. You want to jump some cliffs and express yourself on the mountain.
And Sverre trains off the mountain too.
You wake up in the morning and feel, yeah, today is the day. I can do something extra.
Sverre's hardcore training off the slopes in his hometown of Stockholm earned him his nickname, the Swedish Butcher. It also helps him to make what looks impossible, possible.
You just want to scream out loud and just step a little bit outside of your comfort zone.
Conditions seem perfect. Then, out of nowhere, Sverre triggers an avalanche.
Average speed of an avalanche is about 80 miles an hour. They can move at 100 to 200 miles per hour depending on the slope or the incline.
Sverre doesn't know how much snow is just behind him and decides conditions are right to take his run to the limit. He launches an insane backflip into the teeth of the avalanche. Sverre's about to disappear in a whiteout. Neck and neck with a potentially deadly blast of snow, he barely manages to surf an icy wave out of the danger zone. Sverre crosses the finish line with a victory. He finds out for the first time just how close he came to disaster.
I felt safe, and I didn't really notice the amount of snow that was chasing me.
With a slab?
Come on, you.
Now?
If I would have seen that, it could have been another story.
Another daredevil who likes his snow steep and untouched dodges an avalanche on a mind-boggling descent. But this time, he's on a snowboard.
There's absolutely places where making a very small mistake will kill you, and that's what I call a no-fall zone.
In Alaska's Chugach Mountains, Jeremy Jones throws it down on a gnarly run called the White Fang. He's known as the baddest big mountain snowboarder on the planet.
I like to always think to myself before I'm dropping into a mountain, what is the worst case scenario? What happens if an avalanche happens?
It's spring 2006. Jeremy and team are shooting one of his epic adventure films, and conditions are hard pack.
The winds had come in blowing 80 miles an hour every which direction, and it was what we call bulletproof. You couldn't dig a hole in the snow with your hands.
This is snow that's been heated, melted, refroze, snow on top of that, layers and layers, slabs and slabs, almost like concrete blocks.
For Jones, facing fear is all about planning.
It could be weeks, months, days, hours leading up to that where I'm going, I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it. Once I'm strapped in and have decided I'm going to snowboard a descent, then the fear has been replaced by confidence.
As far as Jeremy knows, he's the first ever to carve the snow on this particular ridge.
We call them first descents. There's so much more mystery riding a mountain for the first time than, say, the second time.
10 miles from the ocean at 3,000 feet, spring weather may be perfect for skiing, but there's always the risk of an avalanche.
I'm coming down the face, and I pop a small air, I land.
Then, without warning, it happens.
The whole slope fractures around me, and for sure there was a moment of fear seeing everything buckle around me.
You can see the whole slab is breaking and going. And you can only hope to try and ski out of it The best thing you can do is try and go left or right of it, stay on the top of the ridge line, and hope it breaks down below you. This guy was right in the middle of it.
Time stands still. It gets quiet. I become hyper-focused on what's in front of me.
Jeremy is free-falling 100 feet down the face of the steep mountain, swept up by a racing wall of snow.
There's no time to think about anything other than what your plan is to get out of that situation.
There's parts of the video where he's encased in the avalanche.
Jeremy flips over and over, but somehow manages to regain his balance and roll out of trouble at the last minute.
He's already rolling and tumbling, you know, and how he gets out of that is a miracle. I don't know how this guy ever boarded out of this.
Coming up, eyewitness to destruction.
There were people in their cars, and we thought, are they going to be okay?
And later,
Oh my God.
a flash flood fright when weather caught on camera continues. A 30-foot tsunami surges so quickly, with such devastating power, nowhere feels safe.
I was thinking, this is terrible. There were boats and all kinds of things being carried away.
March 11th, 2011. A quiet Friday morning in Sendai, Japan is shattered when a massive earthquake strikes. The monstrous 9.0 magnitude quake lasts 2 minutes.
The 2011 Japan earthquake was the most powerful earthquake to ever have hit Japan, and it was the 5th most powerful worldwide.
Tsunami warnings sound out. Shinsuke Ito rushes to the top of one of the tallest buildings in Sendai.
I've never been so afraid. It wasn't like anything I've ever experienced.
The waves gain momentum and crash into an elevated rail and roadway. In a roar, train tracks are shredded.
I used to think buildings could stop a tsunami. That's not true. It washed right over the small buildings and smashed into the big ones.
In less than a minute, a parking lot becomes a sea of surging water. Seven miles away, earthquake expert Nozomu Yoshida escapes to a bridge.
The water came from over there. When people saw it coming, they ran towards us.
Tsunami floodwaters below transform streets into rivers. Raging currents hold a man hostage in his car. There's no rescue in sight. Another desperate man's only hope of survival is to swim in the lethal waters.
After tsunami, sewage systems have often been burst open, so there's a terrible problem with sanitation.
Too haunted by her memories to appear on camera, this woman is one of hundreds stranded on the bridge. She can't believe her eyes.
There were people in their cars, and we thought, are they going to be okay? As cars kept floating up and big trucks kept rising, we were thinking, what should we do?
As the sun sets, smoke from nearby fires is visible. Temperatures drop, and the horrendous situation becomes dire.
Everyone was saying, someone will come to help us. Let's all hang on together a little longer.
12 hours later, rescue boats are an answer to prayer. These survivors are the lucky ones. The deadly tsunami claims almost 20,000 lives and is called the most expensive disaster in human history.
In life, you never know what's going to happen. And that's what I learned.
Coming up, a tourist town tragedy. When weather caught on camera continues. Powerful aftershock caught on camera in one of the world's most cherished cathedrals.
I was afraid of suffocating inside the basilica.
A place of comfort and faith. Now, chaos. Assisi, Italy. A 5.5 magnitude earthquake seems to have spared the Basilica of St. Francis, home of Italy's patron saint and a region that gave birth to the Renaissance. Art lovers and religious faithful around the world are holding their breath.
This place gave birth to a new art and a new figurative language.
As a precaution, Father Enzo Fortunato closes the basilica's doors to the public and leads a small group of conservationists on a tour to assess the earthquake's minor damage.
There have been nearly a dozen earthquakes since the 13th century, and those earthquakes probably weakened the structures considerably. And on top of that, there had been shoddy repairs that were made, and that too heightened the risk of something major occurring.
Aftershocks begin to rumble through the basilica.
There were 2 or 3 aftershocks so strong, I said to my superior, why don't we get out of here?
Cameraman Paolo Antolini is there to witness what happens the next horrifying second.
Sentendo la terra tremare, acceso innanzitutto la camera, l'ho girato.
When I felt the earth shake, first of all, I turned on my camera and turned towards the exit. There were some people there.
E c'erano le persone sotto.
A final brutal aftershock tears holes in the medieval basilica's towering ceiling. Thousands of pounds of cement and plaster are headed straight for Father Enzo.
My superior was right next to me, and he grabs me by the arm and pulls me towards this wall. And we crouched down like this, and that saved me.
The sound was deafening. It was really horrifying.
Spaventoso, veramente.
Antolini is trapped in a huge cloud of dust and debris, but somehow keeps his camera running.
I thought, how do I escape? Because the ceiling collapsed in front and behind me. I couldn't breathe.
In the dark, he hears someone calling out.
Come outside. Follow my voice. Follow my voice. Finally, I was able to see the outdoor light. I breathed a big sigh of relief that I had dodged a bullet.
Avevo scampato un grandissimo pericolo.
2 technicians and 2 friars are crushed in the rubble.
It was truly a moment of grace that we closed the basilica. Otherwise, instead of 4 dead, we would have had a massacre that day.
Thanks to extensive repairs, visitors won't notice the horror of that day hidden beneath the cathedral's ancient walls.
Experts say the basilica is the safest place in case of another earthquake. Let's hope.
Paolo Antolini is proud of the 4 seconds of footage that won him Cameraman of the Year honors and feels a special bond with Italy's patron saint.
Ever since that day, in a way, St. Francis has become my protector.
A few hundred miles to the north, a horrifying flash flood threatens to wash a tiny Mediterranean village out to sea.
Oh my God.
It's just after 11 a.m. on a fall day. A flash flood warning is in effect for Vernazza, Italy, one of the famous string of 5 seaside towns called Le Cinque Terre.
That morning, we were expecting unusual weather in terms of the amount of precipitation.
Dodi Camerata is at work with his business partner, Pino Giannoni, in their homemade ice cream shop. At first, the only flood Dodi's worried about is the day's flood of tourists. But then, the rain gets out of control.
At a certain point, the way it started raining was frightening. Like an avalanche of water coming down.
In minutes, Vernazza's main street becomes a raging river.
We heard an incredible noise. All our refrigerators started to float and bang against the wall.
Dodi and Pino are trapped.
I can't get out because the water was so high. I looked outside and saw mud, cars, and motorcycles float by, just like toys.
Inside their shop, Dodi's partner is fighting to save his 3-year-old grandson. But time is running out.
The child's screams are something that I hear constantly, even now.
They're struggling for breath in the last few inches of air beneath the ceiling.
It was all the way up to the light. I didn't even think about my children in that moment. I knew I was dying.
Then, in a heartbeat, the unimaginable happens.
Pino passed his grandson to me for a second. Then I turn and don't see Pino anymore. He's gone.
Pino is swept away in the flood, but Dodi manages to escape with the little boy.
Just 5 minutes later, and it was certain death for all of us.
The flash flood claims the lives of Pino Giannoni and 2 others in Vernazza and buries its main street in 12 feet of mud and debris.
In just a few hours, an entire year's amount of rain fell to the ground. That's why the water caused the mountains to implode.
Tutte le montagne siano implose sotto questo effetto di acqua.
Tourists from around the world are still drawn to Vernazza's charms.
Natural, just like it always was. The water, the splendid sea.
Thanks to the courage of townspeople like Dodi and Pino, their families, and Vernazza survived the harrowing flood of a century. Coming up.
Wow.
A giant waterspout heads straight for her house.
So I got a tornado in a tornado. That's crazy.
And later, millions of birds put on a show.
It felt like they were dancing.
When Weather Caught on Camera continues. A monster waterspout lurks offshore.
I've never ever seen a waterspout that huge.
And is headed straight for a house.
Wow. It's like got a tornado in a tornado. That's crazy. I was torn between running for cover and just observing this amazing event that was taking place that I knew I would never see again in my life.
June 19th, 2013, Grand Isle, Louisiana. A summer getaway in the heart of the Gulf.
It's actually the end of the world. It's as far south as you can go on the west side of the Mississippi River.
For Richie and Sydney Malone, it's an ideal spot for some of the best fishing in the country.
I got one. Hey,
what you got, babe?
And a front row seat when weather decides to put on a show.
When I walked outside and I saw that thing right off our property, I was breathless. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. Amazing. It was huge. It was much bigger, really, than what the video reveals.
It grew in an unbelievable amount in just 5 seconds. It just mushroomed.
They're worried because the waterspout is making a beeline right for their house.
I was standing here, and the waterspout was out this direction, and it was approaching our property, coming right for us. And that's when I thought, I better get this on camera, and I panned around as it went over toward the island.
Waterspouts can certainly be as dangerous as the typical tornado, a weak tornado that has winds up to about 100 miles per hour. Occasionally, they can be even stronger than that.
The Malones usually see 3 or 4 waterspouts a year, but this one is supersized.
There was an outer layer that was real white that was just boiling up like Alka-Seltzer in a glass. And then the inner line was real, real dark, and it seemed to be going down.
And then there's its power.
There was an oyster boat out there that was being sucked into it from a distance, and he had to turn his boat to keep it from flipping him over.
It could toss the boat around, capsize you, put you in peril. And certainly, there are some waterspouts that will move on shore. So you need to treat them with respect.
The spout just misses their house and stretches all the way to an island over 100 yards offshore.
I think if this waterspout hit land, if it stayed its course and actually came toward our house and hit our house, I don't think there would be anything left. It was that powerful. Wow.
Ever wondered what weather's like 93 million miles away from the Gulf? Where billions of tons of fiery rain fall hundreds of thousands of miles.
The sun has really amazing dynamic phenomena that's happening, and when that stuff is directed towards us or through the rest of the solar system, we call that space weather.
Welcome to a time-lapse of the coolest weather in our solar system in the million-degree atmosphere of the sun. Powerful telescopes aboard NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory send images 22,000 miles all the way back to Earth of a spellbinding firestorm called coronal rain.
These plasma rains are magnetic, and they're guided by these huge magnetic loops. Those loops are somewhere between 5 to 10 Earths stacked up on each other, so it's way beyond the scale of the clouds. It would fill up the inner solar system.
after a 2010 launch, from the moment instruments are switched on. Scientists and stargazers around the world have been able to feast on the NASA satellite's never-before-seen images. They help explain how the sun's weather works.
We've never seen with this incredible clarity, and they were truly caught on camera live as they were happening in this amazing view that we have never had before.
This storm begins when a solar flare heats up the sun's atmosphere.
The whole event was roughly 10 to 12 hours. During a short period of time, we released as much energy as could power the entire Earth for 1 million years. So it's just a staggering amount of energy.
Beautiful shades of ultraviolet light dance on the sun, each a breathtaking clue about the sun's life-giving energy and how it affects us back on planet Earth. Coming up.
Sophie! Oh, wow.
A flock of birds straight out of a horror movie.
There was over 1 million birds. It's like over 2 million wings.
When weather caught on camera continues. Ever wonder what it feels like to fly? One man comes up with a brilliant idea about how to experience a bird's eye view of soaring on the wind while taking tourists on a ride of a lifetime with one of nature's magnificent creatures.
It was actually an idea that was hatched over a couple of beers in a local bar.
From mid-October to mid-April, it's the dry season in Pokhara, Nepal. Temperatures at the foot of the towering Himalayas are around 80. The perfect weather for Scott Mason's 2 Egyptian vultures, Kevin and Bob, to soar.
To be alongside them, to be above them, below them, have them come and land on your arm. You know, looking at the expressions on their faces, the whites of their eyes, you know, all of these things you just don't get an opportunity to see.
Mason's light bulb idea? To rely on the vulture's instinctive ability to find rising columns of air called thermals, updrafts of wind caused by temperature changes that keep them aloft for hours.
It's a similar process to how we get a thunderstorm. That sun heats the ground heats the air above it, and it starts to rise. So really, thermals happen everywhere. Your goal is to always go from one thermal to the next and extend the ride.
On an ideal day, it would be nice and sunny. The beauty of flying in Nepal is that we get long seasons where it's hot, sunny and dry.
Weather conditions make it a perfect time for Mason's airborne adventure. He blows a whistle to signal the vultures they're about to get their just reward, a tasty piece of buffalo meat.
Sometimes we get people that are scared of flying, but once they're in the air and they're comfortable in their harness and they're concentrating on the bird, you know, their fear completely disappears.
At dizzying heights, Mason captures vultures in flight by putting cameras on his boots, on a pole, on the web of paraglider ropes, and most amazing of all, on the backs of the vultures themselves.
Tiny little HD digital cameras that we attach onto the harness so we can film from the bird's perspective.
His mission? To change people's perception of a creature with a frightening reputation and help bring Asian vultures back from the brink of extinction.
Numbers have dropped by 99.9% in some species, which only leaves a few thousand birds left. Being involved in this project has given me a newfound understanding of the fragility of some of our most important species.
Much tinier birds thousands of miles away change an everyday canoe trip into a scene right out of a Hitchcock movie.
There was over 1 million birds. They were so close, inches away.
A raw winter day in Ireland.
Right, let's get to that island then.
Sophie Windsor-Clive and Liberty Smith set out on an icy river Shannon to a mystical place called Holy Island.
This is all Stinky Bird Island.
They end up discovering something even more magical on the way.
All of this is
Some days it's thick white fog, and other days it's bright sunshine. And I had a camera that I'd borrowed, so I was filming a lot the changeable weather.
Sophie! Oh, wow.
The birds started arriving, and more and more and more arrived, and the whole sky was black as far as we could see.
As we were starting to paddle out into the lake, they came in a huge roll. The sound of that was like sitting under a huge oak tree in a storm.
If you hear the footage, you can hear me going, ah!
I think mine was more of a...
The spontaneous gathering of countless starlings is called a murmuration. It only happens when temperatures drop during fall and winter months and proves their strength in numbers.
There's less food for other birds of prey that are around, and so acting like one huge bird, acting in unison like that, might scare away some predators. And so there's a lot of benefits to being huddled together when the temperatures start dropping.
The way starlings mirror each other's movements is pure acrobatic poetry in motion.
It felt like they were dancing. It is this competitive nature to it, but also there is this communal joy.
There is research saying that the bird is able to basically instantaneously talk to the 7 birds immediately surrounding it. So if any one of them switches direction for any reason, they can instantly change as a group. And that's how you get such cool formations.
And then, as suddenly as it all began, it's over.
When you experience something that's so intense, you're just kind of holding yourself together. And then you have this moment of release, and that's when we both just laughed and laughed.